have shared a few times over the years the colors that I have on my palette, and it kind of changes and evolves, and I do change the colors slightly depending on the subject I'm painting, but I try to keep it pretty simple, limited, and but I try to keep it pretty simple and stick with a fairly limited palette. And primarily I use 3 colors, and then I'll use a few more just for specific circumstances. So I thought I would do a walkthrough of the colors I have on my palette currently, and also give you some less expensive alternatives, because I do use some pricier oil paints. My tastes have gotten very expensive when it comes to paint. So this is Ivory Black by Michael Harding. I use Ivory Black just for my pet portraits. I don't use it really in landscape or in still life, but I do use it for the blackest blacks, like the liner, like the lash line on the eye, I'm trying to think of what the black part of the eye is called. Not the iris. Hold on. All right, I can't think of it right now. Anyway, the pupil. There we go. The pupil. So I'll use it for like the pupil of the eye, the inside of the nostrils, that sort of thing. Or if an animal has really black fur, the blackest of black in the shadow, I will use Ivory Black. But I generally, to make a black, will mix Ultramarine Blue with Burnt Sienna, and that gets a black, but sometimes I need it even darker. So this is Ultramarine Blue by Michael Harding. I also like Utrecht and Winsor Newton. Those are all 3 ones that I like, but this is Michael Harding. This is Rose Madder. It's by Michael Harding. I sometimes interchange it with alizarin crimson. The reason why I started using Rose Madder is there was a book I was reading on landscape painting. It's an older book, and the artist in that book strongly recommended using Rose Madder instead of alizarin crimson, just having to do with some light fastness and things like that. So I switched to Rose Madder, and I really like it. Again, I use this primarily in portraits when I need like pinks and purples. This is Chinese Vermillion, which is one of the most expensive. I think it's the most expensive paint on the palette. But I really love it as a red because it's a gentle red. And I do have, let's see, I do have a more intense red that I'll use when I need it. Pyrrole, is that how it's pronounced? I'll use this red when I need like a bright red, like if I'm painting like cherries or like a red fabric, just something that needs to be like super bright red, then I'll pull this out and just kind of use it on the side of the palette. But I usually use Chinese Vermillion, and this is for my portraits when I need to add some more red to make a reddish brown, or for some of the pinks around the nose and that sort of thing, I'll use Chinese Vermillion. This is Burnt Sienna. This is by Winsor Newton. And I've actually tried a lot of different brands of Burnt Sienna, and I always come back to the Winsor Newton. And the reason I do is because it's transparent. And I've gotten used to using Burnt Sienna and Ultramarine Blue, which are both transparent, together as a wash, as like to tone my my canvases. I will use it to, I'll use it as a black, I'll use it to sketch. Like I just use it for so many things. And when I use a Burnt Sienna that is not transparent, it just messes me up. So I always come back to the Winsor Newton Burnt Sienna. This is Yellow Ochre Deep by Michael Harding. I used to use a Yellow Ochre Pale, and I actually like the Deep now because it's just richer. You get these richer mustardy yellows, and so I use this quite a bit. Also, if you mix it with Ultramarine Blue, it makes really great olive shades. This is Cadmium Yellow, also Michael Harding. I feel like, so there are times when I've not had cadmium yellow on my palette and I really miss it, because you need that like intense yellow if you're painting bright spring greens. So I always end up putting it back again. And then this is genuine Naples yellow. This is by Michael Harding. Actually, these are all Michael Harding except for the burnt sienna and the white. So genuine Naples yellow. First of all, it has to be genuine Naples yellow. If you get a Naples yellow that it's not genuine and it's not really expensive, then it's not actually Naples yellow. And it looks a little more muted. So I love, though, this color. And again, I've tried to kind of get it off my palette because it's a little bit on the expensive side, but it's great for lightening colors when you don't want to go to white. It's also great for lightening when you want to keep the tones a little bit warmer. And it's great to add to white, to add just a little bit of a yellow tint to it. It's great to have on the palette. I don't use a ton of it, so a tube, like a small tube, will last me a really long time. So that's the same with Chinese Vermillion. So these two that are the most expensive, I don't use a massive amount of them, and I primarily use them for portraits. And then for my white, I use Flake white replacement. And I have not used titanium white for a long time because I found that my whites just got out of control. They just ran away with the painting. And so I had trouble controlling them. So I switched to, well, I tried a bunch of different whites, and ultimately I really like Flake white replacement. It's by Gamblin because it's inexpensive. So I can buy big tubes of it. I can use a lot of it. But it gives me that flexibility that you get with, it's a little bit more transparent, that you get with like a lead white or Kremnitz white, or one of those whites that are sort of a traditional white used in oil paintings. And I think lead white is even gentler than the Flake white replacement, but I've gotten used to this one. Sometimes I'll have the Flake white replacement and then a lead white, and I have, or a Kremnitz white. So I have Kremnitz white by Michael Harding, and I'll sometimes just pull a blob of this, or I've lead white by Rublev. Both of these do contain lead, so, and I do use them, but I use the replacement when I can. So this is basically like a lead white replacement that behaves similarly to lead white, but doesn't contain lead. So these are my colors that I have on my palette currently. Let me know if you have any questions, or if there's a color that you really love on your palette that I'm missing.